Welcome to the program, Paul Edmonds. Listen, I'm not doing the single shot first where I do a little 45-second plug and talk about I'm just going to say hi, then do my plug, and then
Your show. You do
hey,
whatever you want.
voice voice of the first overall Winnipeg Jets, Paul Edmonds. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
Oh, I'm just spectacular.
Yes.
Hey, real quick, let's get actually plugs first. Nah, screw the plugs. All right, real quick. Four Nations, Canada wins. Duh.
Yeah.
Connor Hellebuck's the netminder for Team USA. How do you think he comes out of this psychologically, physically, whatever?
Oh, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
He's never been one to dwell on any negative about his game or his team's game. So he'll just move along. He'll he'll kind of work on the things that he feels in terms of his details that he may have let down, whether there is any of that, and then he'll just kind of move forward with his goaltending coach Wade Flaherty and into the final 26 games with the Jets. But listen, I there was some criticism that was maybe heaped on Connor Hellebuck for the way he played in the final. I don't have a problem with the way he played in the final. You know, there's a 2-on-1 that ends up being the tying goal at 2, where Sam Bennett scores it and goes roof. And then how do you leave the world's best player completely unattended in the mid slot for a chance to win the game, which he buries to the top corner
Of course.
because somebody else missed an assignment? So, I mean, come on. Does he have to pitch a shutout here just for the U.S. to win? I
Right.
mean, Bennington had a lot of criticism throughout the tournament, and he ended up finding his game in the third period and in overtime. Connor Hellebuck was just fine. He'll come out of this just fine. And if anything, maybe there's a little bit more motivation for him when it comes to the final 26 games with the Jets and then into the playoffs to kind of draw on that experience. Because I think one thing that you can always say about these types of events, and there hasn't been enough of them, of course, for the players of today, but you can always draw on those experiences to go forward when it comes to an experience that you might be having or something similar in the game going and moving ahead.
Right. But yeah, Bennington criticizes, oh, he's not as good as Hellebuck. Now that he saved their ass three
He did.
times. One
Yeah.
time was off the charts. So the game's his. He won it. And again, as you pointed out, was not on Hellebuck. It was Bennington stepped up, made three saves that he had to make, like beyond. And then what the is Austin Matthews doing? Here's your captain floating over to the corner. And am I picking the wrong guy here in terms of who's responsible? Like he's the closest guy to the slot, and you leave Connor McDavid by him. Three Americans going over to Mitch Marner in the corner. What do you think he's going to do?
Well, there's an old saying about center. You play all four corners of the rink, but you also, when you are in that environment, in that spot, you have to make a read and look around to say, okay, who's left unchecked here? Because if it's 5-on-5, if
Right.
this guy's unchecked, maybe I should be on him because then we're all playing kind of man to man in that scenario. I don't know that it was a zone defense.
No,
Yes, he made a mistake. Now,
you're
he
not playing.
almost won the game twice
You're not,
earlier on, but this
you're not,
was
you're not playing all four corners when you already had two teammates in the corner.
right. Right. Yeah, but I'm just going with the old tried and true on
Yeah,
if you're teaching a young centerman
yeah,
where you need to play, but at the same time, the read is important. We always talk about reads,
yeah.
and he misread what was going on or what was going to happen and floated into the corner. I don't know that he was cheating. I don't know what he was thinking. You'd have to ask him that, but you can't leave Connor McDavid unchecked in the slot in overtime.
Two things you said there. The word float, because that's kind of what it was. There was no stop start. It was just kind of like curvy. Oh, I'll just kind of go over here. And then secondly, I watched his post game, 2.5 minutes. No one asked him. No one asked him. If you're up and you're afraid to ask the question, just phrase it like this. Say, um, you know, you were one of the five guys skaters on the ice, or yeah, five guys. It was full on overtime. You were one of the five Americans on the ice time. Was there a breakdown that led to that goal? And see what he says. You don't have to point a finger at him necessarily. But somebody asked that question. It's the game-winning goal, and I couldn't believe it. I was like,
I concur.
stop
Totally
it.
concur.
The question.
Yeah, I totally concur with that.
That's the problem now. It's like, anyway.
Well, in the game today where we are so robotic in systems play and analytics, okay, where's the breakdown? Where would you go about fixing that in that situation again if it cropped up identically in tomorrow's game? Who needs to be where? But you're right, it wasn't asked.
Let me do the math, and I'll shade that part of the rink, and I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah, a little heat lamp. Put a heat lamp on it.
Put a heat lamp on it.
Yeah.
Say Austin. All right, enough of that. But it just drives me bats. And what a screw up in that situation. But all right, back to the first place Jets. What's happened now? Morris, he got hurt.
No, he had the norovirus.
He was sick. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
What's Adam Lowry's deal? He's on IR for how long? Is he like?
He'll play against St. Louis on Saturday, so he's coming back off IR. So he's ready to go. He's been skating all week with the team. They had a couple of, I guess, informal skates to get back on the ice, and then the last 3 days they've had regular practice time. And Adam, one of the first days on the informal was in a non-contact, and then the last 3 days during regular practice he was in full contact gear and is good to go. And Scott Arniel suggested on Friday that he'll be ready to play and able to go on Saturday against St. Louis.
Dr. Edmonds, you said neurovirus with a great deal of confidence. Could you please describe
the norovirus?
Oh, could you describe maybe to our audience what that is?
It's the 72-hour flu that kind of runs through you rather quickly and violently. Let's just say that.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah.
Out both ends, one of those deals?
Yes, it can. Yes.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially, yes.
What's the three? You don't have you're on time limit. What's the three biggest items of adversity that this team has gone through this year while remaining in first place? Because teams do need a little adversity. One would think.
Well, the schedule for one was pretty arduous for the Jets. They were at it for every second day for weeks on end. There was one stage where they, over 4 weeks, not 3.5 weeks, not 3 weeks in one day, 4 solid weeks, that they played 2 home games. And that included a back-to-back with Florida, home and home with Florida. So, they got through that. That schedule was very laborious for them, and it was difficult. And yet they managed to keep their head above water. Adam Lowry being lost for several weeks as the captain of your team, and the backbone and the toughness and just the way he plays and brings everybody together was another one. And yet in his absence, they rattled off 8 straight wins, right? So, I mean, they managed to get through that as well.
Who needs him? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was kind of joking about that the other day. And I just think that, overall they missed some other players in Mason Appleton. They missed Vladislav Nemesnikov. So while they had Nemesnikov was out and Adam Lowry shifted into the number 2 center spot, then Nemesnikov comes back and Lowry goes out. So I guess the third one, to answer your question succinctly, they've had a bit of a rotating kind of depth chart on the second line center, and they've managed to handle that with aplomb as well. So all of these things, I think, speak to the depth of this team, the depth of the organization, and it's really served this team well because they seem to be able to absorb every body blow or every punch to the yap that's come at them. And every time they've lost a game that they didn't like, they've bounced back favorably the next time as well.
Before I forget, by the way, I always refer to him as one of the underrated stars of the National Hockey League, Kyle Connor. What do we think of Mr. Connor's tournament performance?
Well, I mean, obviously USA Hockey wasn't very happy, and it's unfortunate because I think a guy like that, sometimes you will understand and be more patient with a guy that with one shot can win you a hockey game for some of the things that maybe he's not doing that you feel that he should be doing, but maybe that's not part of his game. And, Mike Sullivan had him down to 8 minutes, and then he had him out of the lineup. So I'm interested to see how Kyle Connor reacts to that, because That's USA Hockey talking, not the Winnipeg Jets. So it's kind of up to him to answer those questions if he gets those questions posed to him, excuse me. But I think that Kyle Connor, it's kind of too bad that he wasn't in that type of game, because in overtime, Kyle Connor would be that one guy that can sling a puck or whip a puck toward the net that can win you an overtime game. And he wasn't there, and he wasn't available to Mike Sullivan and his coaching staff for the USA.
I don't remember this off the top of my head, but you would. How has he done in the postseason when the Jets have surprisingly been bumped?
Okay. I mean, I think that when you look at the last 2 years for the Jets, they've had a problem scoring some goals in series against Vegas and then against Colorado, winning both the first game and then dropping 4 straight. So I don't think that it's isolated to one guy. It's a group. And certainly I think what this team will do, and they've all talked about, this is interesting too, Rob. They talked after last year because they were pretty bitter about going down in flames in 5 games to Colorado after doing the exact same thing the year before in the first round against Vegas. They talked about being 5 to 10% better. Well, the 5 to 10% better is this: defend 5 to 10% better, and also find a way to get to the middle of the ice and score a few more goals to 5 to 10% better. If you do that on the defensive end and on the offensive end, you should be able to get past the first round, whoever that is this year. But, there's 26 games to go for the Jets. They still want to ride this thing as best as they possibly can. The focus has always been on winning the Central Division, not necessarily the President's Trophy. But if you're there, you might as well win it against Washington and right down to the wire. There's some motivation there as well. But I think that all of this, 52 wins last year was great. You might supersede that this year. But it's all about what happens in the first round of the playoffs for this team. Nothing more, nothing less.
And again, it's not about one guy, but I think Kyle Connor, given how much we love his regular season performances, this will go a long way determining kind of his future, kind of the mentality around him and the fans' concepts of him, and his legacy is going to be these future postseason performances. So we just have to wait and see. But I mean, it's really, let's just put it this way, especially given this recent experience in a high pressure environment, it's time for the young lad to get her going.
Well, he's a 30-goal scorer this year. He's been a 40-goal scorer. There's still, I think, more in the tank here. And then not only that, but he's got next year on his contract, and then Winnipeg will be looking to sign him to a long-term deal, like an extension. So I think that sometimes when it comes to offensive players, you want to be a two-way player for sure. And Kyle's improved in that area a lot. And so is Mark Scheifele. But sometimes you just can't force guys into playing exactly the way you want them to play, because you might be giving up a little bit of what makes them unique and what makes them great. So you have to take some of the good with the bad at times. And I'm not so sure that Team USA in a short sprint type of tournament was all that patient with Kyle Connor and the way he does play. The Winnipeg Jets have a lot of time for it, I can tell you that.
All right, Paulie, we're going to talk again as we get closer to the postseason. We're going to wrap this thing up. We've hit the major points, hit some very interesting topics in a brief and succinct manner, which, you and I have been known to do over the years. I am curious about the documentary that's coming out about you, the life and times of Paul Edmonds, from gigolo to broadcaster.
Yes, I did a student-led interview for over an hour prior to coming on with you today, and you were hitting me with the text messages. But these are the things that we do, Rob. I mean, we are becoming old men in the industry now, and there's younger guys that want to come up and find out how we did it. What led to our lucrative and illustrious careers?
I don't know if that's really what they don't really know how we did it. But
yeah.
Or,
I'll let you know when it's done how I did it. Which could be any minute now.
Speaking of that, what kind of entertainment value do you think I might be able to bring to the Vancouver market? I'm thinking about going into the business there. What do you think? You think I'd bring you to the table?
Into Vancouver?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you'll be a star. They love you in Vancouver. The Lower Mainland. It's your oyster.
Yeah. It's a tight-knit group here.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy. Thanks very much. We'll catch up to you again down the road.
My pleasure. Okay, buddy.
Always a joy. Go Jets, go.
Talk to you later.
Hey, so's Paul Maurice, I understand. He's pulling for you too if they don't get it done again. Remember?
He is, yes. I think that they've got a mission to try to repeat. But if the Panthers don't win, then I'm sure he's pulling for the Jets.
For the Jets.
Wouldn't it be interesting to see a Florida Winnipeg final?
I'd love it. I'd love it. I'd be pulling for the Jets, Jets.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks, Paul.
See ya.